Squadron.
Back in is on a late night mission. Tonight we're going to discuss grain in depth. Yes, can it be phased? Yata mashata? Of course it can. Here's the instructions on screen. Notice that there's purple and red. Well, red being the top part and purple being the bottom part. So how that breaks down is 0, 16, 32, 48, 64, 80, 96, and 112. 0 and 16 would be heavily scattered, 32 and 48 would be scattered, 64 and 80 would be clustered, and 96 and 112 would be heavily clustered. That's how that breaks down. There's no way to fuck it up. Alright, so we're on a knit patch. Turn it up. Put a little bit of release on there, like 84 or something like that. We get a little tail with the boring saw wave. Now we're going to jump right into it. Random grain clout. Now for random grain clout and glass grain clout, I can't really explain that, how that works. It's just a cloud of grains. It's not how it looks on the instructions. The instructions, this busts down for the shapes, and you'll see the shapes here in a second. So this is the random grain cloud. Very robust. I haven't done nothing to it. Now, if you want to compare it to glass grain, let's listen. Random grain is a lot brighter than glass grain because you want to think of it as random grains of sand or sound, and the glass grain is the sand after it's been struck by lightning, which turns into glass. Look it up. So this is how I came up with it. Imagination. So without further ado, let's move around and show off the grains, and we'll get into how we use the instructions here on screen. So random grain cloud, to maneuver it, you'll want to do something like this. I'm always suggesting an LFO because that's like automation. You see, we're going to get into synthesis as a whole, but this box is bad. Now look. So you can hear the grains moving around. Now, because the grains have been shaped on other stuff, which I'll get into in a second, that's why you can phase it and do other stuff with it. So, glass grain and random grain, the difference between two is the glass grain is not as bright. They're both extremely powerful. Now, let's play a game with the oscillator. Let's run it through the grain. Easy chaos generator territory, if I might say so myself. So that would be how you kind of play with grains. You can do other stuff like put tuning forks in the grains. You can run other stuff. You know, combining engines is one of the things this box is super duper bad at. It kicks the shit out of the virus, hands down. You could only do certain things on the virus, like if you run a hyper engine, and if you run grain, it gets yata mashata. But on this, you can combine in yata and nothing happens. The processing power still keeps punching through all the number crunching that you could possibly do on this little box. Badass blockbuster box. Everybody needs to get one and get to the store and get the plugins. The plugins are badass. Let's get into it some more. Alright, so look. We'll kill that. We'll bring in... Let's bring in some other junk. Alright, here. Let's just jump right into the shapes. Alright, so take this to 0. Take this one down to 16. Alright. Now what we're gonna do, kill the automation on the LFO. Now, I know you guys are probably like, well, what's the difference between scattered and clustered? Well, let's listen. Ooh, I didn't even have this on. Foolish. See how it fades out? Okay, so, sorry, my bad, y'all. I got ahead of myself. Alright, so pulse width is at 0. Automation is killed. So we're in the scattered, because that's 0 and 16. Now you're probably like, what's the difference between scattered and yata? Well, I'll show you. And see, when you mess with the grains, you get different type of tones in between. See how it phases though? But we're in 64 and 80. If you look at the pulse width, 80 and 64, but you hear how thin it's getting? Because they're getting more clustered. See, when you turn it up here to 96 and 112, you get real thin. And we're in glass grain, by the way, so yeah, my bad. I'm not really paying attention, but it's the same thing. Like, it's not the same thing. It's glass grain is different. It's not as bright as random grain. It works the same way. 0, 16, 32, 48, 64, 80, 96, 112. That's what I mean by when I say it's the same. It's not exactly the same, though. It just works the same. See how full and robust that is? Now, mind you, we're on the thin side of stuff. Oh shit, what was I getting ready to do? Oh yeah, alright, let's go back to automation. Let's take it back to the fully scattered. So that's 0 and 16. Oops. Alright. Notice the difference? See how it sounds different? See, I'm not frauding. I don't have to fraud. That's not my MO. That's not what I do. When I bring shit to the table, listen, it's solid like this wood I got right here. Okay? It's solid. I promise you that. Okay? Now, let's go. Let's take it to some automation. Let's throw an LFO on it. You're going to want to set it up for this too. And we're going to crank it. Now what this is going to do is sweep through the scattered to heavily clustered, heavily scattered to heavily clustered. Okay, so we're in the heavily scattered. It's going to start and it's going to go to the heavily clustered. It's going to get thin. Now listen. Change it to random grain. It's gonna work the same way because like the glass grain and the random grain, like if you switch it over, you don't have to do all this number switching. Like it's still the same way. 0, 16. It's gonna work. It's gonna break down the same way. Yeah, it's a little extreme, but my bad. You hear how beautiful that sounds and nice and full? You can't do this with any other box, I'm telling you that. Now let's get into the Trap 3 choir. Let's get into that. There's waveforms on the screen, or oscillator shaped on the screen. I'll show you this one as well. Oops. We'll go in order. So from here, here, well actually, you know what, here, random grain cloud, glass grain, random grain sine, glass grain sine, glass grain trap 3 choir, random grain square, and glass grain square. Alright, so let's get into the trap 3 choir. Oops. Sweet irony of it all. It sounds like a choir, doesn't it? I bet you guys probably are like, wow, that's really crazy. Now the grain engine is done in single cycle formation, so you can see what it looks like by identifying what I've named this stuff and labeled it as such. So that's why it's done in that type of cycle. If I made it any smaller, I've already explained that on the past video, that it would look weird. And it would just be, look, I don't want to do this. Just let me write the codes and program the plugins, okay? No one else is questioning programmers about shit. They just want the fucking programs and they want to plug it in and play. That's what this is. Plug in, play. Okay? Now, when you switch it up. See that? No filter going on, none of that. Okay? Almost sounds like the choir singing and laughing. Okay, so let's move on to random grain square. Okay, let's play. Get it completely in phase. Okay, now let's put the ring mod re-rock on that. So we'll kill volume here. We'll go down to here, suggested envelope, to the ring mod re-rocker. See, so as you hear, it gets really, really, really crazy. Even when you take automation off. Really big and fat. Now, can you combine random grain and glass grain? Of course you can, because you can combine any engine that you want on here. That is without a question. Bring it back up to its full splendor. So yeah, that will wrap up the grain engine. I'm making this tape a little bit too long. I'll catch you on the flip. I hope you enjoyed. Get to the store and get yours today. Squally.